Hey, how's it going? It's Joe. Welcome to ER-301 Hold Mode, Part 2. Well, I didn't even know there was going to be a Part 2 to this, but after I made the first video, Brian, the creator of this awesome device, watched it and posted some really helpful tips and some answers to the questions that I didn't even know to ask. And it turns out that Hold Mode is even more awesome than I thought it was. So I want to share some of those tips with you and kind of demonstrate them and just kind of show you some of the things that I've done with them. I'm on firmware version 0.4.26. Before we get started, I wanted to point out there's some new screensavers in here. If you go into System Settings, in addition to the timeout for the screensaver, we've got some choices in here. We've got the original bubbles, which I think has been dialed down a little bit, and I've got a couple more choices here, blank and 2 lines, and I really like this grid one. Alrighty, let's pop back up into edit mode. So I've got the same basic chain that we had in the last video. I've changed the rhythm up a little bit so as to not drive you guys crazy with repetition. And I've added this saw synth to it that we're going to play with. Alright, so let's pop over into hold mode. One thing that I didn't really realize is that you can rename all of these things really easily. So these all said level before, and all you have to do is come in here and just, you don't even have to click on it. You can just kind of hover over it and do rename, and you can rename these anything that you want. And that really is helpful to know what you're dealing with rather than all these just saying, like level. So that's pretty cool. When you clone one of these things, I'm going to clone mix here, this pin set. It retains these names, so it's probably best to kind of name them before you clone them. That way they kind of stay the same across there. It created this new pin set, and by the way, this mix apostrophe, the way they actually say that is mix prime. So it's kind of a mathematical notation. It rolls off the tongue a little bit easier, mix prime. So yeah, now I know exactly what I'm doing. If I wanted to do a similar thing where I had the snare and hats drop out, I can just bring their levels down here in mix prime, and we'll start the sequencer going. So now if I press enter to commit, this is commit in hold mode. And I can recommit the original mix. Cool. So let's see, let's go ahead and collapse these guys down. All right. The next thing I wanted to show you was we were doing some kind of morphing with this bass over here. So let me go ahead and add these parameters back. We'll drill down here into the bass. I've still got the single cycle here. Let me pin this to a new one, and let's go ahead and rename this bass. And before we were playing, I think, with the scan control and the frequency control, so let's pin that to bass, and the resonance control. All right. So flipping back up into hold mode, now I've got a new pin set called bass. It's got the scan, the F0, and the resonance. I don't think I really need to rename any of those. They make sense to me as they are. So let's go ahead and clone this guy, the bass pin set. Create one called bass prime. So I'm going to come back up here into edit mode. And so before, what I was doing is I was making some adjustments to these controls, and that I had pinned, and I was kind of unpinning them and repinning them to the prime version of that pin set. And it turns out that that's like the really clunky, slow way to do it. There's a much better way. So let me show you. I'm going to make some adjustments to this scan control while it's playing. So before I was doing this thing where I would come in here and I would unpin this from bass prime, and then I would pin it back to get the new value. Yeah, we don't have to do that. So let me just go ahead and cancel here. And what I can do is come back into hold mode, and I've got the scan control here, and you can see, by this kind of faint line here where the value is at in this pin set, and then you can see, by this kind of hollow square above it, what it is in edit mode. So if I go into base prime, all I have to do is go onto this control and click reset target, and reset target basically is going to reset it to whatever the value is in edit mode, currently at 0.45. So sorry, I mixed these up. The box is where the pin set is at. The kind of fainter line is where it's at in edit mode. So if I reset target, it's just going to go ahead and do that value. But wait, there's more. So I actually don't have to do this for each individual thing. I can go through here in edit mode, and I can just kind of adjust these things on the fly to my liking, and then I can do them all at once. So let me kind of demonstrate that. I'm just going to go through here. I'll let the sequencer play. I'm going to dial in some of these controls. Cool. So that sounds, okay to me. If I go back into hold mode now, and I hover over the header for the base prime pen set, I've got reset targets. So I can actually, we can see by the boxes where they're at now. We can see by the kind of the faint lines, where they're at in edit mode. If I do reset targets, it's just going to snap all of these to exactly where they're at in edit mode. So let's do that. So now I've got kind of this new pen set base prime set up, and I can flip back and forth between these. Cool, huh? So that makes it much more slick and convenient, I guess, to kind of edit these things. So ask you a question here. How many times has this happened to you? I thought of a really nice application for this. Like you've got this sound going on your modular, and you think to yourself, man, I could probably make this sound, a little bit better. And you go and you start adjusting a bunch of things, and before you know it, you've got this new sound, and you're like, does that sound better or not? I don't know. So, one of the kind of the cool things you can do with this is, I'll just kind of show you. You can kind of save your values. You can go make adjustments in edit mode, and then you can kind of A/B what you had with what you have now. So let's go to this base. Let's go ahead and commit this so that we've got that kind of squawky sound, and I'll just go make some adjustments. Cool. So does that sound better or not? I don't know. So you can see that this base prime has reset to 0%. And, here are the new values represented by the kind of faint lines of what they are in edit mode right now. So if I go over here to base, as long as I don't commit this with the commit button here, I can kind of go back and forth between these and kind of A/B compare. And if I like what I have, I can go ahead and commit it with the reset targets. And if I don't, then, I can just go ahead and commit what I had before. So let's check that out. And you'll notice here I'm also kind of doing a preset morph, or a parameter morph between what's stored in this base prime pen set and the values that are in edit mode. So you don't even really necessarily need to make a second pen set in order to be able to do this kind of morphing thing. So this is really sweet. In this case, I think I like what I had before better. So instead of resetting the targets to what they are in edit mode, I'm going to just go ahead and do a commit on base here. All right, cool. Let's go ahead and collapse these guys down too, just to tidy things up a bit. All right, let's see. So the next thing I wanted to talk about was some of these gate and trigger type pin set type pins and mixing these up. So back here in edit mode, I've created this saw synthesizer, and it's just a really simple synthesizer. It's a aliasing saw. I've got it fed into a low pass filter and into a delay. And let's see here, I've got an envelope set up here. So if I trigger this thing, that's what it sounds like. Over here on the volt per octave, I've got ping scaled random from accents set up in here. And this is set to, has a scale and an offset. This gives it, just a little bit more than an octave range that it's going to randomize it by. And then I've got this fed into a scale quantizer that is set to a major pentatonic. So what I want to do is make a new pin set that's going to allow me to kind of play this saw synthesizer in real time. The things I want to control are actually firing the gate, and then I want to control this randomization of the pitch, and I also want to be able to kind of control the cutoff of the filter. So another way, if we go back into here into hold mode, I can kind of control the order that these things come in by, here I could insert a new pin set, or if I want to go to the end, I could just click here to create a new pin set. Let me go ahead and do that. I'm going to create a new one at the end. That's where I want it. And we're just going to call this saw synth, SYN. So you don't really see it here because there is nothing in it, but the pin set, did get created. So let's go back and start adding some pins in edit mode. So I'm going to drag this, I'm going to grab this trigger here for the ping scaled random, and I'm going to pin that to saw syn. And let's see here, if we go up to the envelope, I'm going to take this control right here, which fires the gate. I'm going to pin this to saw syn. And then finally, I want to grab my filter cutoff, and I'm going to pin that one to saw syn. So if I flip back into hold mode now, I've got this new pin set called saw syn. And the way this works, so I can, if I do just one of these here, and actually let me rename these so that I know what they are. Let's rename this one. This input is actually the gate. And then this trigger here is going to control the note. So let's just name that note. All right, cool. So now it all makes good sense. So if I fire this gate, it fires it individually. If I fire this note, that's going to change the pitch for me. And if I hit the gate again, then that's going to do that. So I get a new pitch this way and can fire the gate that way. You can see here, because this is a mixed pin set, I've got a kind of a fader here to help me control the faders that are in it all at once. And I've got this kind of trigger gate button here that helps me control the gate type controls all at once. So if I hit this, it's actually going to fire both of these. Pretty sweet, huh? And that was like super easy to set up. So I can control these and kind of play this synthesizer in real time. Let me start my sequencer going again, and we'll just have a little play. Actually, I think I want the other bass sound. super sweet, huh? So yeah, I've got, hold mode here. I've got, some different pin sets here. I can control the mix of my drums and things like that. I can kind of morph or jump back and forth between these bass pin sets. And I've even created a little saw synth here that I can play completely from hold mode. So I'm really having a lot of fun with it. It's awesome. Hope you guys learned something from this. Maybe took away something you could use. Being able to control these gates is really awesome. I mean, there's all kinds of things you could do with this. You could have, multiple loopers up here in edit mode that, you're kind of punching in and doing them all at the same time, kind of keeping them in sync. Just a ton of possibilities. So anyway, hope you have fun with it. Catch you next time. See ya.